Welcome to Total Retail Talks, your podcast channel for retail knowledge.
Hello, and welcome to episode 120 of Total Retail Talks. I'm Joe Keenan, Executive Editor of Total Retail. Today I'm joined by Stefan Lewinger, who is the co-founder and CEO of Sock Fancy, a sock subscription box service. We're going to be discussing some of the factors that have led to the growth of his business, including its subscription commerce model. Thanks for joining me, Stefan.
Hey, Joe. Thanks so much for having me on.
So my first question is just, can you tell our audience a little bit about Sock Fancy, how and why the company was founded?
Sure. As you mentioned, Sock Fancy is a subscription sock service. This all kind of started back about 4.5 years ago. Really, we found that one of the biggest struggles was that we found that finding well-made, thoughtfully designed, and affordable socks was really a challenge. At the time, my co-founder and I were roommates, and he was always the sock guy around, and he would always try to get me to find them or buy some more, and it was always just a challenge for us. So in 2013, we started Sock Fancy.
Did either of you have a background in e-commerce or retail? What was kind of your background when you started the business?
Sure. So at the time, I was actually still working at a digital advertising company. I was doing marketing before that, I was doing marketing for a modern furniture company. So I had a little bit of a background in digital advertising, e-commerce, and marketing. And my co-founder Futham had a big interest in socks, and he had a lot of experience in management, a couple other things, and we decided that kind of merging our strengths, we could kind of start something really interesting there.
Yeah, so we talked a little bit about the founding of the company and the inspiration for it. Let's talk a little bit about your customers at Sock Fancy. I'm interested in your typical, target customer, and then kind of a second part to that question is, what kind of marketing tactics have proven effective at both acquiring and retaining these customers? Yeah,
so our target customer is always one of my favorite conversations because it's one that kind of has been evolving since the start, and one that's equally as important to kind of figure out, right? So for us, we thought at the start, we know that people who wear socks, it's about 75%, well, not wear socks, excuse me, but, want to wear a little bit more of an interesting pair of socks and something really kind of special. That's about 80% male. So we figured that was our easy target, no problem. But in kind of the growth of things and really testing out our different marketing strategies and trying to identify the key audience for us, we found that, interesting enough, almost 75% of our buyers are women, because it turns out, subscriptions, especially sock subscriptions, turn out to be a pretty good gift. So that was an interesting kind of lesson learned as we were growing early on, was really to figure out who our target audience is. And while our product kind of lends itself to a male audience, our buyer is heavily a female audience, so that was pretty interesting. And I think that plays nicely into what your marketing tactics are going forward is, we do all kinds of platforms, whether it's radio, YouTube, social, or any kind of web-based tools. So all of those, you're trying to identify your target customer in each one. So that was a big challenge for us.
And then you're working with a company called Ad Hoc that is kind of helping with that. Maybe you can talk a little bit about your relationship with Ad Hoc.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, so we were never short of a good idea. We were never short on ideas for content. We were never short on ideas for places to spend money and where to do it. But we found that kind of the biggest, most time-consuming part of digital advertising specifically was kind of optimizing those spends, optimizing those campaigns, and figuring out, really how to make the best of your money, and how to make that go the furthest. And we stumbled on Ad Hoc, was one of our third-party partners that we used, that was really kind of quintessential in our early on growth there. So that team was great, and I think that's kind of advice that I give to everybody is to really identify the kind of proper or identify really useful third-party partners to help your team grow in the early stages.
Yeah, that kind of leads nicely into my next question then, Stefan, is what factors have contributed to Sock Fancy's growth since its launch? It's, as a new company, it's only launched in 2013, so Kind of talk about kind of the growth of the business.
Yeah, I mean, there's a handful of factors. I think, one of our best kind of ace in the sleeve kind of thing is that our customer base, our subscribers are really loyal, and they really spread the word, as much as they can about Sock Fancy, because it's kind of a little bit of a viral product of sorts. It's a funky sock subscription. It's a great gift. So a lot of that kind of speaks for itself, but you can't live and die on word of mouth alone. So there's a lot of other things that we have to put into place, and a couple of those being a strong digital marketing effort, and focus on really the core experience of the subscription itself. So making sure that deliveries are sent on time, they arrive on time. You've got the proper support for people who need you there when things maybe when things go wrong or whatever it might be. So it's kind of really a three-pronged attack for us. It's making sure that the subscription itself is really robust and it's really well done. The socks and the people that we send it to.
Yeah, and I guess maybe you want to talk a little bit about the product itself, the quality of the product. Obviously, that probably factors into the success of the brand as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it goes without saying that we take the product itself, which is the sock, very, very seriously. I mean, these things are. We went through. What was it in the early days? I think it was 6 different factories and I think 12 different blends of cotton, polyester, and spandex to really find a great pair. So we kind of settled on, right now we're about a 78 to 79% comb cotton blend, which we found allows it to be soft and stretchy, but still really durable. So we really love that. And obviously funky socks aren't funky without a great design, and we've got a really great art team here. That we really kind of pride ourselves on coming up with cool and creative designs for people to really show off, because socks are really an important focal point of an outfit nowadays, and we hope we think that's here to stay. So
yeah. So one of the things you mentioned that might have been a little surprise when you started is you thought primarily your customer base would be men. That hasn't necessarily proven to be the case, and then as the gifting component comes into play. But I'm also interested in the subscription commerce model and why you felt that was the right fit for your business. Has Sock Fancy always sold via a subscription commerce model? And talk about why you kind of decided on that business strategy.
Yeah, well, it's funny. I mean, the average person loses 1.3 pairs of socks per month. So, that's over 15 pairs per year. So it fit perfectly, that the subscription model fit perfectly with our socks, and we found it was really the great way to not only deliver a good product but deliver a great experience. That's one of the kind of exciting things about a subscription model itself, is that you're really able to. It's not just one touch point that you have with your customers. It's not just that one purchase and maybe a follow up on your shipping or whatnot. But it's really, on average, our customers are on board for almost a year. So that's a really long period of time that we get to tell them our story. We get to make sure we're doing things right. And we get to really deliver the best product that we can. And that's actually was a huge part in the evolution of our company, because we started out as more of a curation service in the subscription. So we put the onus on ourselves to find the best socks from some of the best manufacturers around the world. But the problem, came to a head again, which is finding that great pair of socks and finding an affordable great pair of socks that, not only are durable, but they're great looking. So we even had trouble curating those ourselves. So, this was almost a year and a half after the start, we decided to make them ourselves. And ever since, that's been the best thing we could have done, because we really made that a priority for us, and we really wanted to focus on just the perfect pair of socks and the perfect way to get a perfect pair of socks every month.
Yeah, so I was going to ask, so it's a monthly service, right? The customers get the monthly box?
Yeah, they get it. It's a monthly service. You can sign up kind of a pay-as-you-go type method where you cancel any time, or you can kind of prepay for a subscription ahead of time. That's usually what our gifties do, because they're buying a 3, 6, or a year-long subscription for somebody. And you can either get 1, 2, or even a 6-pack every month. So we try to make it pretty flexible, and we're always trying to add new features based on a lot of kind of feedback from our customers and feedback from our own team here.
So then what is Sock Fancy focused on as it looks to continue this growth? You've had some initial success, and obviously that you want that to continue. So what are some of the areas, whether it be some of the marketing things you're putting into place or technology, what are some of the things you're focused on as you continue to grow the business?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of things. From a product offering standpoint, we always get asked when the next iteration is coming. Are you doing underwear? Are you doing T-shirts? Are you doing, bracelets? I don't know. We've had a number of different strange questions, but we've grown. We've been lucky enough we're growing over 100% each year. So it's pretty evident that our core is really important to us, our core offering, and that's the sock subscription. And so really we're focusing more and more on that, and we're focusing more and more on continuing to make the best pair we can and continuing to have the subscription offer kind of unique features. So we've got some new features in the work that will allow people to, reserve a certain pair every month or request or kind of add up in a queue. So just certain kind of cool features that we're developing there. But from a marketing standpoint, it's really just we have literally tried everything, and that's what I encourage everybody to do. If you're starting a small business or you're kind of running one right now, is test, and then test again, because every business is really different. And I found that in my career before Sock Fancy, and now is that what works for somebody in one field is certainly not going to work for the next. So for us, we've been really hammered and kind of hit the ground on social and web-based tools. So we do a lot of AdWords, we do a lot of Facebook, and then as I kind of alluded to previously, it's one thing to have the content, it's one thing to have an interesting story, it's another thing to have a good team around you, which are all important things, but it's also good to make sure you're utilizing the proper tools. And for us, our third-party partners, kind of, we consider them employees anyway as part of the team, but our third-party partners are really important for us. Like we mentioned before, Ad Hoc. They were able to help us increase our conversions 6 times over in the first few months. We drove down our cost per acquisition. I think it was 30% or so. So once you find that, then you kind of really double down on those types of efforts. Facebook advertising for us is great. YouTube native advertising, podcast has been a huge hit for us. So we just continue to try to think of new and exciting ways to get the word out.
Yeah, and then my final question, Stefan, and you might reiterate some of the things you've already talked about, is as a digitally native brand like Sock Fancy, what tips or advice would you have for other small businesses that are looking to grow online?
Well, it's really, it's kind of cliche, but it's not afraid to try new things and really just kind of go after it. You can spend all day in a meeting with your partner, with your team, and debate whether you think something, is going to work, but until you actually get out there and try it, you're just not going to know. So my advice is always to really just do it, just give it a go. Obviously make the proper measured decisions when it comes to the economics of the whole thing, but make sure you're there and you're trying and you're measuring and you're doubling down on the efforts that work. That's the only thing you really can do. But you just got to stay nimble, and for us, it's staying, lean, agile, and ready to kind of try new things at a moment's notice. And
as you noted from, the growth rate of the company, it seems to be working. So I want to take this opportunity to thank Stefan Lewinger of Sock Fancy for joining me today. Please check out our podcast channel page, mytotalretail.com/podcast for show notes. Total Retail Talks is available on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher, but make sure to subscribe on our podcast channel page as well. Thanks, and I look forward to you joining us on the next episode of Total Retail Talks.